Philistines, an enemy of the people of Israel, gathered up their troops for battle and set up camp on a hill. King Saul and the Israelites came together and camped on a hill on the other side of the valley from the Philistines to get ready to fight the enemy forces. Goliath, one of the Philistine soldiers who was a giant at nearly 10 feet tall, stepped out into the open. Covered in hundreds of pounds of bronze armor and carrying a spear the size of a fence rail, he called out to the Israelite troops, "Why bother using your whole army? Pick your best fighter to battle me. If he kills me, the Philistines will all become your slaves. But if I kill him, you'll all be our slaves and serve us." When Saul and his troops heard Goliath's challenge, they became scared and lost all hope. Away from the battlefield, Jesse and his youngest son David were home in Bethlehem. Jesse was too old and David was too young to join Saul's army, but Jesse's 3 oldest sons had followed the king to war. One day, Jesse told David to take food to his brothers in the camp. Jesse said, "Check in on your brothers to see whether they are getting along all right and let me know how they're doing." David got up early the next morning and started off toward the battlefield to bring his brothers the food. He arrived at the camp just as the army was getting ready to go to battle, shouting their war cry. David ran to find his brothers within the group of soldiers. While they were talking together, Goliath stepped out and gave the same challenge as before. As the Israelite soldiers ran away in fear, David asked what the man who killed Goliath would get. They said, "The king will give the man who kills the giant riches, his daughter as a bride, and freedom for his whole family." Eliab, his oldest brother, heard David speaking with the men and got mad. "What are you doing here? Why aren't you minding your sheep?" David replied, "What's wrong? All I did was ask a question." King Saul called for David. "Master," said David, "don't give up hope. I'm ready to go and fight this Philistine." Saul answered David, "You can't fight Goliath. You're too young and you don't know how to fight, and he's been fighting since before you were born." David told the king, "I've been a shepherd, taking care of my sheep for my father. Whenever a lion or bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I'd go after it, knock it down, and save the lamb. If it turned on me, I'd grab it by the throat and kill it. Lion or bear, it made no difference. I killed it. And I'll do the same to this Philistine pig who is making fun of the troops of God. God, who saved me from the teeth of the lion and the claws of the bear, will save me from this Philistine." Saul said, "Go, and God help you." Then Saul gave David his own battle armor to wear. Saul put his bronze helmet on David's head and belted his sword on him over the armor. David tried to walk, but he could hardly take a single step. David told Saul, "I can't even move with all this stuff on me. I'm not used to this." And he took it all off. Then David took his shepherd's staff, selected 5 smooth stones from a stream, and put them in the pocket of his shepherd's bag. He grabbed his slingshot and headed out to face Goliath. Goliath looked down at David and laughed as he said, "Am I a dog that you come after me with a stick?" David answered, "You come at me with sword, spear, and battle axe. I come at you in the name of God, the God of Israel's troops, whom you make fun of. This very day, God is handing you over to me. Everyone gathered here will learn that God doesn't save by means of sword or spear. The battle belongs to God, and He's handing you to us on a platter." David's words angered Goliath, and he rose and moved toward David. David ran toward Goliath, reached into his pocket for a stone, put it in his slingshot, and hit Goliath hard in the forehead. David's stone hit Goliath so hard it became dug into his head and killed him. Goliath fell face down in the dirt. Then David ran up, stood over him, took the giant sword, and finished the job by cutting off Goliath's head. When the Philistines saw that their great champion was dead, they ran for their lives. David was brought before King Saul. The king asked David, "Whose son are you?" David replied, "I am the son of Jesse, who lives in Bethlehem."